Welcome to RT 340 Clinical Instructor Training. We're looking at our to-do list. It might seem a little bit long, but once you get used to the whole program, it's pretty easy. But I wanted to make these videos so they can help us train multiple folks and ask questions when we meet up. So please go through all the videos and ask any questions when I meet with you. So the first thing is RT 340 is a second year course. It's called Advanced Clinical Rotation. Students tend to do the 10 shifts, 12-hour shifts, and they start August 22nd this year because we just need to start early. It's new curriculum, and I wanted to do the best possible thing for our students so that they are not falling behind. Instructors do need to meet our students for 4 total hours, meet the students 1 hour in the beginning, 2 hours subsequently in the middle, and 1 hour at the end to provide data arc evaluation. I will show you the data arc evaluation video as well. I'll link that in our training section here. But when you look at why you're meeting a student, you have to meet them really because of disciplinary issues. CI meets, so CI means clinical instructor, CI meets student for total 4 hours. There is some flexibility, which we can go over when I meet with you, but let's look at what you're supposed to be doing. So the clinical instructor, you need to send an email to the student welcoming them. A lot of students complain that they don't have enough information where to go at the hospital, where to park, etc. It just gives them a warm welcome, and then it helps them quite a bit. There's a template, and that template is on the next page, right below here, all the way down here. And you can use this template to build your same welcome letter for every student every single year. You don't have to redo it, just with minor changes, the date you're going to visit them, etc. But please go ahead and use that template and build an email for yourself. I will introduce you to your students early on, and then you just send them an email letting them know. Provide them a phone number to call in sick. They shouldn't be calling you, but they should always call and talk to the lead therapist. And don't leave a voice message is what you want to tell them as well. Give them a direct number for the lead therapist so that the therapist knows if the student is sick. Meet the student in the beginning of the rotation physically and go over your expectations, essentially what's in the syllabus and what we expect. Meet the student in the middle of the rotation as well. A lot of students will let us know if they didn't see the instructor and they complain. We want to do our best job possible. And then as far as your dates, I give you some flexibility when to start, when to end. But it's really your time whenever you want it on Ohlone College's time, and you can't be working for the hospital. Keep track of the students' assignments. What happens is the word assignment, they sometimes don't understand it's really a case study. They need a 3-day ventilator weaning a case study. So a patient that's weaning from the ventilator, or they're getting escalated to ICU care. So it's a Word assignment, Word document. Essentially, they're going to present it in a PowerPoint in the next semester. Student must be done with the case study by the 8th shift, because they have 10 shifts. Students will tend to they fall behind. We want to support them and encourage them. As a clinical instructor, it's your job to keep an eye on if they finished it or not. Emphasize writing the notes in SBAR SOAP format, whatever your facility prefers. I don't mind either or if something's different out there. Either way, teach them a way to organize information. Keep track of student progress and check in with staff and the purple packet for evaluations. So for example, when you're meeting, let's say your student's name is Sammy. He comes in late, you should know about it. Or he's excellent, you should know about that too. If Sammy is coming in late, he is causing any sort of trouble, you should be aware of it. There are 2 ways to do it. Purple packet that we've created that the student brings, you can look at that weekly, or have the student leave it in the department somewhere safe. If that's not a possibility for them to leave it at the department, you can look at that that purple packet every single time you meet. Essentially, the easiest, I think, you have to keep this very private though, because of their FREPA laws. You must keep things private about the student. You can ask one RT at a time, hey, how's my student doing? Any tips? What do you think? And we'll go over the rubric that helps you kind of evaluate them daily anyway. So after you've met with them in the middle of their rotation, you have some sense how they're doing and progressing. If a student is not progressing or making mistakes, they're late, they're rude, you must address it to the student and document it separately in a notebook that's private to only you. Basically, you should date it. I'll go over that in a little bit in detail, how to keep track of students, because we've had an incident where there was not a proper documentation what had occurred with the student. It was harder for me to prove that the student was at fault. They remain in the program and they're quite difficult. I believe in having students come in who are going to be strong therapists, kind-hearted, thoughtful folks. So for that reason, it is our job as gatekeepers of our industry to make sure we bring in good people. So you are really that person as a clinical instructor looking out for weaknesses. Now the student will say, I did not know that I was late. I did not know I had this mistake. You never told me. That happens. So make sure that does not happen to you. Make sure you are on top of it. You know what the student's doing, good or bad. Keep it a separate file document, note it down, and keep track of it. I'm going to skip this page and go right down here to the very end of our packet. This is a sample. You can do this in Word document at home. You can do it in a book somewhere, but you have to keep these things private. And if you ever need it, you can pull these out. So you put down student's name, which department they're working on, and what course they're attending with you. This is RT 340, for example. Your name would go here. You should have a column date and time. You must fill out the date and the time of the event when you met with the student, and the general notes. If everything went well, still write it down. Student gave a political comment in this example. So let's look at some negative examples. CI guided the student to refrain from political topics and noted it on daily progress sheet. Now, their daily progress sheet, we know that it looks something like this. They have a rubric in the front, and then they have this whole template where they get a preceptor's comment. Say you met with them and they're following another therapist, Amy Smith. Amy Smith has given them all good comments. You can absolutely go down here and make more comments that the student make political comments, student was guided and not to do it again. And then when you go to the second page, flip the page, you should mark it down, needs improvement or unacceptable behavior about patient care, unprofessional behavior, language, and so forth. So let's go back down here. So if you notice, this is on January 23rd, then 24th of January, you'll see student pulled out oxygen from the wall and the patient was in a dangerous situation. RT told student to never remove oxygen without an order and following a complete patient assessment. Basically, this actually happened. The student was told tens of times that this is oxygen, this is how you deal with it. The student was defensive, noted it was noted in the daily student evaluation sheet and provided guidance. I should get a contact from you. You can text me. Honestly, I'm pretty open with communication, and if you need guidance, you can email me, whatever's easiest for you that this has happened. We'll go over the rubric in a second and you'll see why this is important. And then finally here, just FYI, if someone is pulling out oxygen and they're causing dangerous situation, they need to go home for that day, and you should call me. Unsafe, unethical, HIPAA violation, anything dangerous, we need the student to go home, and they'll be put on probation. And it's absolutely your right because it's your class. You're really teaching this. Then here's the next example. A few days later, student ate nurse's food. I mean, you will have multitude of events that are inappropriate. You must document them. And what you did about it, what did you tell the student, and what we need to do. The student has to fail the course. That's actually, it's a true story. Okay, so let's go back up here and keep reading what we are really monitoring them for. After you've done that, you meet them at the end of the rotation and then complete their data arc evaluation. I'll send you the link in the same training packet for data arc, which is actually down here. If you go down here, data arc information is right there. There's a YouTube link if you ever forget how to do data arc. Coming back here, check the yellow card. The entire every single shift should have it, and you need to initial it at the end. I'll show you that when we meet. Check all signatures and initials of RTs in the clinical packet. I'll show you the purple packet in another video. And an instructor must keep a student log. See the last page that we just talked about. You need to have a log of the student. You need to write it because it's really for your protection. Otherwise, there's nothing that I can do unless you bring it to my attention. That's the log that helps us really put a point to our dean and upper administration what's going on with the student. Throughout the semester, document and evaluate. I can't say that enough. Document events with date and time for disciplinary issues. Example is no call, no show. Safety issues. Please see the rubric and we'll go over it. Check the daily evaluation sheet and check the daily evaluation rubric for deficiencies. So again, let me go to this. This is our daily evaluation sheet, okay? We go over it with our student. This sentence will take it out, and this is it's actually moved out. But we are going to take their daily evaluation sheet, student goals for the day, preceptors' comments. You must read these and talk to RTs in private. Do not discuss it in the department. We had a student where they saw two RTs discussing the students' progress, and it was a huge issue because students have rights where you can't publicly discuss their progress. Whether they're getting an A or they're failing does not matter. So if you look at the rubric, you want to be aware of the following things. I want you to read it on your own when you come to the training session with me. You'll have the unacceptable area. Jeopardizes the safety of patient, self, or others, violates HIPAA laws. Procedure performed without patient safety in mind. May need reminders about safety. So 1 and 2 are a failure for that day, but if this is redundant, it just keeps happening again and again, we have a huge issue and we need to call that to my attention. You could do that the first week, you could do that mid evaluation when you're meeting with the student, and at the end, but it's better to never do it at the end because the student was never notified. So the best practice for student evaluation is keeping them current on how they're doing, because they need to know what improvements they can make. If they don't make the improvement, that's their issue. At least as an instructor, you're guiding them. Okay. Professional behavior is not dependable, late, missing equipment, uniform is wrinkled or worn. Here's messy, disrespectful to patients or staff, missing one required clinical item, and unaware of their environment and department expectations. Any of those, they're failing for that day. So if you look at a student's daily evaluation sheet, sometimes RTs don't want to circle it because they're saying the student's hovering over them. By all means, you can make a student section in a private office where you have access to the purple packet, but let the student also see how they're doing so that they're aware of their mistakes. Most students are just wonderful. I will definitely let you know if there are any issues that you can help a student improve. Communication is our next. No tact, unprofessional language, condescends or incomplete report, and fails to communicate with the team, missing inaccurate charting. This could be multitude things. The ABG was not done, or ABG was not charted, or they didn't even do the assessment, or they are missing information, inaccurate charting. They're rude to people. Then sometimes self-absorbed. They should not be on their phones at any time. They know that. They are only allowed to bring in study materials that they can read. Report at handoff is unclear or disorganized. You can help them how to become organized, and then but document it on their purple packet and in your notebook, because I've seen students actually throw away a bad daily evaluation and then try to say, oh, my dog ate it. So please keep track of what the student is doing. Minimal command of patient needs, ineffective dialogue with preceptor, missing or inaccurate charting. Then we have clinical development, refuses to accept feedback, confrontational, apathetic, not trustworthy, poor attitude, does not write a daily goal, so forth. So you can see a pattern here that the student is not doing what we're expecting them to do, to behave like a professional RT because they're in a professional program. Defensive, can't understand feedback, makes excuses or withdraws. Not trustworthy and has an attitude, does not write a daily goal. Now, talking about the daily goal, if you go up here on the other side of that same page, the students must write a goal for that day. Whether it is learning how to check the pulse properly or they want to get an ABG better. That's their daily goal. That way the student has fulfillment. A lot of the education is really focusing on what does the student want, and this is that part of it. It's very important. If they're missing the daily goal, you just write it and notify and keep note, and then they should have this circled. Okay, please go through and read the above average and average and excellent, average, above average, excellent points here. They're really wonderful. If you look at 5, excellent, that would be a seasoned therapist. You don't really make any mistakes. Above average is a really good student. Average is where we all want them to land. I also remind students that if they get an average score for the day, it's a great thing. Students tend to be very critical about themselves if they get a 3 and not a 5. You're absolutely right, because you're the instructor at that time, not their friend. Please be honest with them. That's the only way they can improve and improve our profession as overall. Okay, so that was the part where we were going to do evaluations next. So you've corrected their deficiencies right away. Document the details in your notes and please notify me. DC means Director of Clinical Education. You can notify me via email or text, whatever is easiest for you to communicate, and we can do a phone call and I can guide you. But the main thing I will always ask you for is what's your documentation. Ask the student if they have completed data gathering for their capstone project. So they actually have a project coming up. They should do the 3-day study like I had mentioned here. Okay. And you are in charge of making sure they have the resources. Like if they need an X-ray report, you can get that for them without violating HIPAA. Things of that nature. Ask student if they have completed data gathering for the project and make sure they keep it current for 3 days. And the options they have is either weaning or escalating in care. Fill out the effective evaluation on DataArc and let the students know once it's available. Now their grades are due, and if you don't submit DataArc, their grades are late, and that does not look good to our dean or our upper administration. So please be timely with your evaluations and give honest reviews. If you're going to discipline a student, you always want to do something called the sandwich technique. You want to say something good about them, guide them about what they're not doing right, as long as it's not detrimental and dangerous. If it's dangerous, there's no question, they go home. But you need to please emphasize how they can improve, and then end it with something that's very positive about them. So they go home feeling good about what they've done, and then just do constructive feedback. So this is our clinical to-do list, and I'll show you the purple packet in the next video.